Hello and welcome to Turn Off, Turn On Ventures. My name is Jiaho and I am now done with my tour across Europe. I have found myself today in Varna on the east coast of Bulgaria, to the Black Sea. This is as far east as I get, pretty much I think on this tour, and it is both coincidental or fate that I have met Galin from Econic One, and they are an e-bike brand manufacturer here, local Bulgarian startup. I've seen a couple of their bikes around on the streets, and I've already met Galin once to talk about the business. So we're here today at their manufacturing facility in Varna, where we just had a tour around the space to see what they're doing, and it's so eye-opening for me as someone who has consumed the product but never really see behind the scenes of how it's being made. So thank you so much for having me here today, Galin.
Thank you for coming, and it's an honor to have you here
Thank
after
you.
the whole journey that you had in Europe. So it's a very good that you visited so many countries on the way. You came to Bulgaria, you visited Sofia, you met the local ecosystem, startup ecosystem,
Yeah.
and then you went your trip here in Varna,
Yeah.
which is where the e-bikes are made.
Yeah.
And yeah, also you saw how the whole process of making an e-bike, what we put
Mm-hmm.
from like all the details about the e-bike, and
Yeah.
actually how hard it is to make an e-bike. It's not
Yeah.
just like a
Yeah.
easy product, because you have a lot of safety
Mm-hmm.
safety regulations, batteries,
Mm-hmm.
all the all the mechanical parts, everything should work together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, thanks for visiting us.
It was very eye-opening, and I think what I learned today actually is that I used to think that going from a bicycle to an e-bike is a layer of complexity, but now I realize it really is stripping down the bicycle and then reassembling it with a whole different tier of technology that needs that's not just an add-on but needs to be blended into the whole system design, the infrastructure of a bicycle, so that it becomes
Exactly.
a mobility device that takes you a bit further, that's a lot smarter. um, so there's already been quite a bit of coverage for Econic One, which is great to know that there's a made in Bulgaria e-bike brand that's also expanded to what now in Germany,
Austria, yeah,
Austria, and from what I know recently to the US
US,
as
yeah,
well. Then that, I mean, I'm not Bulgarian, but I've been here for a month, and speaking to all the startups here at the early stage, I feel a sense of pride for the company as well to know that. Um, but if we rewind all the way back to, I don't know when should we put the checkpoint. What was your first checkpoint in the e-bike journey?
it was 2010
Mm-hmm.
when I decided to make my mechanical normal bike into an e-bike. So this was the first point that I started thinking about e-bikes.
Mm-hmm.
uh, and then 2014, when I left my previous job in the finance, and I started building and selling the e-bikes.
Wow.
So it's like, yeah, more than 10 years ago.
Yeah. 2010 to 2014. That's 4 years of sort of hobby DIY,
Yeah.
exploration of would you say conversions?
It was mostly about testing different components of the whole e-bike system,
Mm-hmm.
the motor, the controller, display, electronics,
And
batteries.
this is just by yourself,
This is just by myself. Yeah.
at home?
At home, at home in the garage.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. With the limited tools that you have.
Exactly.
Were there any accidents that happened?
uh, Actually, I did my first e-bike pretty fast and easy, because I bought some stuff on the internet,
Mm-hmm.
batteries, motors here and there, and then the fun began when I started riding it.
Oh.
because it used to break all the time.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of cables
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
here and there on the bike.
Yeah.
And the mechanical components were not supposed to bear all the extra weight and the power of the components.
Yeah. Yeah.
So at some point when I tried to get on a sidewalk,
Mm-hmm.
the front wheel jumped on the sidewalk, but then the whole bike and the rear wheel just stayed there, and the front wheel just continued because the motor was in the front wheel.
Yeah.
So
it's a front hub, like
it
hub
was
motor.
a front hub motor, yeah.
Oh man.
So the front wheel continued.
So where are the scars from your first
I
e-bike
don't know,
accident?
but everything is fine. Yeah, so this was during these first 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was so passionate, and I believed so much in the idea that e-bikes are the best alternatives for commuting, the best mode for commuting, that I continued to pursue this goal and to make this my business, actually.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So during these first 4 years, I decided that I want to do e-bikes because I believed that I can make a better looking bike with a very good components, specific components to each model, because there is no one solution that fits all the needs.
Yeah.
And of course, I wanted to make it like at a affordable price.
I mean, this is coming from a person who before 2010 didn't manufacture a bike.
No.
Only ridden a bike.
Yeah, only
Wow.
ridden a bike. Yeah, and actually I'm a finance professional.
So I have hope too. Give me 10, 12 years. Oh man, that's I'm curious to know, because the first conversion was a hobby thing, right? It was for yourself, for your bike.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then you lost the front wheel, and then you made some upgrades, or I presume you got a better mechanical bike to convert.
Actually, with my first bike, I just tested how we can use e-bikes, because I was living on a very steep hill. So that's why I converted my normal bike into an e-bike.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to go to work with the bike.
Yeah.
But every day it was a nightmare going this uphill. I was looking for all the other alternatives, modes of transportation, like public transport, car, motorcycle, everything. But it turns out that the e-bike was the best solution. So at some point, I decided that the market was well prepared for accepting the e-bikes as a means of transportation. The technology developed, so at some point you could find relatively high density energy batteries. So this is when lithium-ion batteries started to come here and there. So the technology changed from lead-acid batteries to lithium-ion. And it was like already mass available on the market. The prices were going down for the batteries. And because the bike is so efficient, energy efficient, that you need relatively small volume piece of battery in order to have like 50 or 100 kilometers of range. So it was I think it was the right moment, 2014. The technology was there, or at least starting to be easily, affordable, and you can easily get some parts here and there. Then we had the market in Europe and the regulations, because all the countries they saw the potential in e-bikes. So they make the regulation that you don't have to register and you don't have to insure the e-bike if it meets certain requirements, like the 25-kilometer speed limit.
Yes.
How you get the assistance is it's only by turning the pedals.
Yep.
You cannot have throttle, and also you limit the maximum power of the motor. The idea of all these measures are just to have a safe vehicle.
Yep.
And in order to ride on the bicycle lane with the normal bikes, you have to keep similar speed. So that's why they choose 25 kilometers. And if you want to keep good balance, you have to turn the pedals.
Yeah.
It's just naturally.
Yeah. That's how it works. Yeah.
So that's why they forbid the throttle, using the throttle.
Yeah. I think that's a great that's a great move in terms of regulation and standardization. Really, it's the EN
15194.
Yeah, EN 15194.
Yeah.
Which for anyone who is watching is it's also the same requirement for Singapore. So Singapore also has the same reference for e-bike design using the EN 15194 standards, which is great, and we'll get to that a bit later. I actually wanted to you were talking about this whole like development of actually the battery design and availability of batteries coming somewhat 2014 onwards, right? And from what I understand, when it comes to batteries, Econic One does things differently from a strategy perspective versus other e-bike manufacturers. Is this something you can share about?
Yeah, sure. Back in 2014, in the beginning, I just left my job in finance, and I started converting normal bikes into electric bikes. At the beginning, just for friends, here and there, and it was just word of mouth spreading around. So when I saw that the product was pretty good, I decided that it's time for a brand, and we invested in the powder coating facility that you saw, because if you want to have a brand, you have to paint the frames, all the stuff.
That's the first investment.
Yeah, this was the first investment.
Wow, the powder coating.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, because if you want to have like a good finish of the bike and durable paint, you need to have it powder coated.
Yeah.
So it's a very specific process. Of course, then we started our first brand, the Joy brand that you saw. At some point, maybe in 2016, because until then we were importing all the parts, but it was super hard to import the batteries mostly from China. The frames and the batteries didn't fit very well, or we were limited with the design of the frame. And 2016, I decided that we can start making the batteries here. I mean, assemble the batteries, not to make the cells itself, because it's super complicated.
Yeah.
And we
so
cannot.
Just to clarify, when you said the batteries and the frame don't match, you mean the pre-assembled e-bike battery packs that you would buy from China were shaped or sort of technically designed in a way that doesn't align with the frame, right?
At that time, we were limited to use mostly e-bike batteries for the rear rack of the bike, which is not the best place to put a battery, because the weight is super high on the tail end of the bike, and the bike is always shaking. And then, of course, you have all the cables from the battery to the frame. Basically, this was quite a limiting factor. So that's why we decided to make our own design of the down tube of the frame and integrate it inside the frame. And then I started to learn about battery configuration, BMS, battery management system, electronics, safety, cells, capacities, and all this stuff. With the help of a local um, electric engineers, we started assembling the batteries here in Varna. This was 2016. And since then, most of the batteries for our bikes are made in Bulgaria, assembled in Bulgaria, with cells from Samsung, Panasonic, the biggest manufacturers. Sometimes we still import batteries from Far East, but it depends basically on our volumes of production. And sometimes it's more efficient just to import some batteries, but of course they are also made according to our design.
Okay. So right now the main process, the most common process, is bringing in the cells from Samsung, Panasonic, and then you all have your own design for the BMS, the casing, and how that fits into the frame, right?
And also we paint the battery case in the same color as the frame, which is our unique advantage. Nobody else can do this.
I was just going to say, because you actually don't have another layer of casing around the battery. It's a lot sleeker kind of form factor. You
saw how you remove the battery on your e-bike.
It's a bit of a pain. It's a multi-step process in a squatting position. But the way I actually really kind of, I guess when I'm always thinking from the startup perspective or the business perspective, and when you've went through the pain of and of course all the effort that goes into designing your own pack design and how the thing assembles together, you actually get, I would think, more flexibility when it comes to costs and margins, right? Because now you're not dependent on sourcing the full pack, you're only dependent on cells, which I would say there are more options in the market than packs.
Exactly. And also it's also about transportation, time to market, because now we stock cells in the warehouse, but from these cells we can make different models, different batteries for our different models. It's either the city or the mountain bike, different needs, and then we adjust according to the customer requirements. While if you have to do this, let's say in China or in somewhere in Far East like Taiwan or Malaysia, it doesn't matter. Then you have to buy more batteries in bulk, wait for months to be shipped, like the whole battery, and then it will be black. You cannot make it any other color. So that's why you see a lot of e-bikes with black batteries on the market, because everything comes from there,
from the same source.
And the other thing is that now we are independent from companies like Bosch, for example, because they sell their whole kit of motor, battery, electronics to the other bike manufacturers, and then the bike manufacturer doesn't have any added value in the electrical system. So everything goes to Bosch. But Bosch doesn't allow you to change anything. They doesn't allow you to put IoT device. They doesn't allow you to put a log GPS or whatever on the bike. So that's why we choose the approach to be independent. We are using open system, so our system can be integrated with other softwares, for example. But maybe we can talk more about the IoT device and then.
No, I was just about to get there, because the way I see it now that I hear you explain it for the second or third time actually, that the other brands are really what they're adding is branding and design to some extent. Some of them have their
without
own
the battery
software.
Design without the battery because it's black.
Like surface design, so they're actually at the stage where you were when you first made the investment in the powder coating factory, right? Technically, because they are also powder coating someone else's battery design and frame and all that with their own brand. But now that you've in-house a big part of that, you are kind of further along in innovation than many other e-bike brands that are in Europe. And I also know that one of the USPs is actually in the smart technology, right? The IoT device. For those who are not familiar, what are these features?
Yeah. So basically, with the IoT device, we are fighting one of the biggest issues of bicycle business as a whole, and this is like bike thefts. So we were trying to find a solution how to protect the bike, especially the e-bike, because you know the e-bike is quite expensive. It costs like 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 euro, and it's a big investment for everybody.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of bicycles are being stolen in Europe. So it's a common issue, and the more expensive the bike gets, the chance of theft is bigger, you know.
Yeah, I know it emotionally.
Yeah. So you know when you're riding your e-bike around Europe,
Yeah.
how frustrated you are all the
Yeah.
time if the bikes will be stolen or not.
Yeah.
And then at some point I said, okay, we have a big battery, which is a power source. We have power. Why don't we put the GPS inside the bike and just track it? So it was just an idea, maybe 2017, 18, and we started experimenting with just putting standard GPS device somewhere on the bike.
Yeah.
But then you start thinking about, well, what will happen if somebody just remove the GPS device?
Yeah.
If it's mounted somewhere on the bike, then it doesn't work, it doesn't make sense. How we can connect it to the battery, etc., etc., etc. And now we are at the stage where we have an IoT device which is integrated inside the frame, so it's protected. If the bike gets stolen, they cannot remove it, or at least easily.
Yeah.
And then it has a SIM card, so we can communicate with the bike over the air. We can update the firmware over the air. We have application for the phone, so the customer can track the bike, can lock it, unlock it, get all the information from the electrical system, all the sensors. And of course we can use this data in order to improve the whole bike, to improve the life of the battery, all the stuff. So it's like a Tesla, but on two wheels.
Yeah. I mean, I was looking at the app that you showed me as well. It does feel like, you know, like also like the similar to the Tesla app, where you have ownership of your bicycle. You can see the stats on the bicycle, lock and unlock.
Yeah, you can share it with a friend.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's so there's a lot of tech-enabled versatility, and as someone who has only recently owned an e-bike, I think that peace of mind is. You don't know how necessary that peace of mind is until you walk away from the e-bike that you parked somewhere.
Exactly.
Right. I think those are features that are very thoughtful for the end customer, and also quite a big moat in terms of how competitors can replicate that kind of feature.
Yeah, exactly.
At the price point that you're offering as well. Yeah.
There are other companies which are very good in smart e-bikes, like Cowboy, like OneMove, you know, but they are like direct to consumer business model, which is very hard and it requires a lot of investments. They develop their own mechanical components, which is crazy. I don't understand this, because there are so much good bike components on the market from companies like, you know, Shimano, SRAM, Continental, whatever, you name it. So that's why it's in our DNA that we make a mechanically serviceable e-bike. So from mechanical point of view, wherever you go with the bike, you can just visit a bike shop and you get bike serviced. Nothing special in terms of mechanical components. And this was our idea since the beginning, in order to have this peace of mind.
Yeah.
It's not only about the theft protection,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's also about, can you service the bike?
Yeah.
The chain, tires, gears, brakes, everything. So usually with the e-bike you travel longer distances, and if you are stuck somewhere 100 kilometers away, if you are with one move or cowboy, probably you won't find the right derailleur or gears or brakes, etc. So that's why we found our niche, and we are working in this direction. Other benefits coming from the smart part of the bike are actually connected also with corporate customers, not only end customers. So we see that the e-bike has a lot of potential as a means of transportation, especially in Europe, in these high density big cities where you cannot park the car, it's quite expensive, you have a lot of pollution. So now, especially after COVID, because during COVID people started to avoid public transport. Now it's coming back, but people like to travel and to enjoy the ride and to enjoy nature, etc. So that's why a lot of governments saw the potential in the e-bike as a means of transportation, and it's taking higher and higher share in cities, especially in big cities. So the commuting is a common use case for the e-bike. And here the corporates, the big companies, are trying to find ways how to provide these bikes to the end user, how the governments to support the e-bike use. So now we are talking not only about purchasing the e-bike from an end consumer point of view, but also what the governments and big companies can give as an example. Because the e-bike is actually 96% more efficient than the car. 96.
And this efficiency is from
it's measured in CO2 emissions.
Emission efficiency. Okay.
Emission efficiency. Of course, it's calculated based on the energy consumption, etc. And it's also calculated based on the whole life cycle of the product, which means extracting raw materials from the earth, turning them into metals or batteries or whatever. Then the whole production cycle. Then the usage of the e-bike, and also recycling and end of life. The whole cycle. So it's 96% more efficient.
That makes me very happy. I mean, I actually didn't have that knowledge of the differences in efficiency. I kind of decided to go on this e-bike cycling tour just because experientially is so much more in depth. But knowing that it's 96% more efficient than if I drove, right? The comparison is driving. Drove across Europe. I think that.
This is compared to ICE cars. I mean, internal combustion engine cars.
Of course.
With the electric cars, it's a bit less, but still there is this huge difference that in order to move one person from point A to point B, you don't have to move 2 tons or 1.5 tons of metal and all the other stuff. So here, why I'm saying this? Because if we talk about governments and corporates, then you have to measure the effect. So with the smart functionality of the bike, you can measure all these data in terms of kilometers driven. How much effort you put on the bike, because we measure even the power
wattage,
of your legs, how much wattage you put on the pedals. We get this data from the electrical system. We send it over the air to the cloud, and we analyze it. Of course, everything is anonymized, so we don't track people. Our goal is not to track where are you going,
And see who is lazy in pedaling.
No. Yeah, but the goal is to show the society how much we can save when we
Yeah.
speak about climate change, about emissions,
Yeah, yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and how big it is. Because every year, only in Europe, 20 million bikes are being sold, 5 million are e-bikes. In the next 2-3 years, 10 millions will be e-bikes, 10 millions normal bikes.
Yeah.
And this is without counting the natural growth of the bike as a whole, the bike market as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
No. So imagine that we can track all these data and we can confirm that these kilometers were ridden on bike instead of cars,
Yeah.
and how much we save in terms of CO2 emissions.
Yeah.
But it's also noise. It's not only, we are not talking only about air quality,
Mm-hmm.
it's also about noise pollution, because it's another big factor for health issues, etc.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So with the smart functionality that we have, we can show this data to the governments and to the corporates, and they can include this data in their ESG reports. You know, now it's a very hot topic.
Yeah.
The big companies, they have to make monthly reports and to prove what they do
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in order to, you know, make the city better, air, less emissions, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So we are just providing a tool for them,
Yeah.
you know, with the e-bike. Of course, after that, they start thinking, okay, how can we give more bikes to our employees? So they start thinking about employee benefits programs and include the e-bike. For example, they subsidize part of the cost of the bike, or they just give some, you know, bikes for use during the, you know, going from office to office by employees,
Yeah. Yeah.
or just commuting and going home
Yeah.
with some corporate fleet of e-bikes,
Yeah,
etc. And with our technology, we can manage these fleets of e-bikes. So we can predict service intervals.
Yeah.
We can predict the life of the battery, how much it is charged, what can be improved, etc., etc. You know,
Yeah.
how we can track them if they get stolen, what we can do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this technology is actually, we have the same thing in our phones, but we don't have it in the bike.
Yeah.
So now we have it. Like,
Yeah.
you can make the comparison.
It's
No.
it's very eye-opening just considering, for one, the market size, right? Because even a small percentage conversion of employees who live near enough or can do the train and ride kind of commute, but taking off the burden of, number one, owning the bike, not having to worry about theft, or at least much lesser worry about theft, and also the sheer enjoyment of being able to cycle without what the traditional cycling experience would require.
Without too much sweat.
Yeah, I think that's kind of one of the things I think that's probably stopping people from cycling to work, is that it's not just a cycle to work. I have to cycle to work and then shower.
Yeah.
But with the e-bike, I think that takes out a lot of that strain.
Exactly.
Especially if people don't mind sort of going on a higher mode, where the priority is not the exercise, but the priority is just, I need to get to work in the most convenient, easy, accessible way. And e-bikes, I think, would, as you hypothesized, would prove to be one of the main forms of transport.
Yeah. It is also sustainable.
And all the more big requirement now to be able to convert to that and then measure it. I'm quite looking forward to it. Is this feature for the carbon emission savings, I guess, is this available to individual users?
Not yet, but we are, of course, we will add it to the app.
When it's available,
because we add all the time new features, and we are working
I think that would
lot
be
of stuff.
really attractive, almost like a challenge.
Yeah,
Because the
exactly.
people who own it already probably have this sustainable element
Yeah, sure.
to their character.
Yeah, and it's quite important, and it's like actual savings.
Yeah.
It's not like just something imaginary,
Yeah.
something not that certain. You are saving.
Yeah. Yeah.
You are.
Wow, if the bikes can be charged by solar, that would also be another big conversion, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. It is exciting.
Yeah. And,
Talking about
yeah, just on the topic about bike trips in the cities, we have very good examples. You know, like Amsterdam, like Paris, like Copenhagen. For example, Amsterdam and Copenhagen, they have about 50% of daily trips commuting are made by bicycle. 50%, 50%. Can you imagine if we make this everywhere in Europe?
Yeah.
But of course, it's connected with infrastructure.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I think with both sides have to move with each other. You know, the more people who get onto cycling, and then cities will see, oh, there are more people on the roads on two wheels.
Yeah.
We should think about their safety, and then they will start to build better infrastructure, and improve the usage.
Yeah. Now the biggest barrier for people to get on an e-bike or a normal bike actually is their personal safety. It's not about the investment, the money they have to put in an e-bike, but it's more about their safety, especially in countries, for example, like Bulgaria, where we don't have very good infrastructure.
It's always quite. It's also the reason why I don't really cycle my e-bike when I get into the city. I just use the e-bike to get to the city, because even though there's a lack of, I guess, formalized bicycle infrastructure between cities, it's still quiet enough whereby it's not super dangerous. But when you come into the cities, the volume and concentration of vehicles going right beside you is the part that's scary.
But which was the country that you felt most safe?
Most safe in the city?
In a city,
Off the top of my mind, right, I think the one that left the most the best impression, maybe because it's expectation versus reality, was Warsaw, was Warszawa, Poland. Because I haven't been to Warszawa for a while now, and in my memory there was quite a lot of traffic. Drivers can be quite aggressive, but then when I arrived in Warsaw, there is a lot of bicycle infrastructure, at least in the city, and even crossing the river. There are bike lanes. There are separate lights for the bicycle lanes, where they let you go, a few seconds earlier. In certain spots, even getting between meetings, right? I would choose to take the bike over walking, because I can get there faster. And the fact that I actually plan a day of meetings with the bike in mind to get from place to place already shows a level of trust in the infrastructure that it can get me there safely and on time. And the same infrastructure is being used for the e-scooters as well. So I think they built that to support the shared mobility, the shared mobility, and also for people who own bicycles, because I did see people on their personal bicycles. So that was really quite a surprise, because I did not expect it at all. And of course, I think in the Netherlands, everywhere is just bike friendly. So that's needless to say, but it wasn't surprising.
It's very interesting about Poland, because it's in East Europe. But this was the decision made by the Poland government. So they wanted to increase the modal share of bikes and scooters, all this e-mobility. They invested a lot. Their bicycle market grew maybe 4 or 5 times in the last 2-3 years. They did this bike sharing system in Warsaw, And now maybe they are in better position even than London in UK, because it's like London is like a very packed city.
Yeah.
You don't have where to build bicycle lanes, etc.
Yeah.
So maybe in cities like Warsaw, it's easier to make a good bike
I
infrastructure.
would definitely agree. Having lived in London and cycled to work on a traditional bicycle, it wasn't difficult to cycle in terms of the road qualities. It was scary to cycle. I think that's and of course the weather adds to it being always very wet and slippery. But yeah, I think I get where you're coming from. I definitely could see the effort put in by the city to support the cycling culture. Yeah, that's a good question. I think on reflection, yeah, that was the most impactful. I wanted to jump forward and look into the future to sort of round up our conversation. This whole thing, you've mentioned there's the future of corporates getting into this e-bike business to support their reporting, to support their employees' health and being more sustainable. Where else do you think? What other spaces would you see there being an opportunity for e-bikes?
Another interesting industry is the tourism industry. Yeah, because if you imagine that you enjoy your e-bike in the city, you go to work with the bike on the weekends, you go around the city in the mountain, super nice. But what happens if you go on vacation somewhere far away? You cannot take the e-bike on the airplane with you. But when you go somewhere else, you want to be with the e-bike because you're used to it. You want to explore more for less time.
Yeah.
The e-bike is perfect for that.
Yeah.
It also levels the physical abilities of people in a group, within a group.
Yes.
So if you are somewhere with friends, with family,
yeah,
then all of you need e-bikes.
yeah,
But it's difficult to take them on the car.
mm-hmm.
You cannot take them on the train, on the plane, etc. So the next big thing will be tourism industry,
Mm-hmm.
and actually rental e-bikes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So people want to go there, to go somewhere, and just rent an e-bike. So I think this is the next big
Yeah.
thing for the tourism industry.
Yeah, yeah,
So I'm pretty sure that there will be tourists that they choose the hotel they want to visit or the place they want to visit only if it has e-bike to rent.
yeah. Interesting.
It's
so
like
it's a B2B2C model for
so there are a
deploying
lot of
e-bikes.
opportunities, a lot of business models that are going to be developed only in this area.
Yeah, yeah,
Because there are many other forms: revenue sharing, purchasing the bike, leasing, all the stuff, insurance, etc., etc.
yeah.
But it's very interesting how this will develop, and it's not bike sharing; it's completely different thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like renting an e-bike for a few days or for a week when you go somewhere,
Yeah,
so you can enjoy it.
yeah.
And now we see this trend in Germany, and for example Munich, where is our core market.
Yeah,
And we started working with a local partner with the biggest hotels in Munich, like the most luxury hotels.
yeah.
And we also had a funny story with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh,
So yeah, he rented a fleet of 8 bikes for him and for his family and bodyguards.
yeah,
So in his stay in Munich for a week,
yeah.
he was riding our bikes actually.
Oh,
In the
very nice.
Yeah, in the, let's say, most luxury hotel in Munich.
Yeah, yeah. So that wasn't an agreement between you and him, right? It's
No.
you and the hotel, and your
Yeah.
bikes were there
Yeah,
when he was staying there.
Well, actually, when he's booking his travel plans,
Yeah,
he has a requirement for the hotel.
yeah.
And he says, I want 8 e-bikes. And that's it. But he's coming from California.
Yeah, that's interesting. I do remember something about him and e-bikes. Because he also has an
riding.
interest, right? Yeah,
He's
yeah.
riding a lot of bikes and e-bikes.
Yeah, yeah.
Because with the age, he turned to e-bike.
Yeah. Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, and
He's also the guy with the tank, right?
yeah.
Yeah, so I guess.
With the hammer, but he made it an electric one.
Yes. He has an electric hammer. Yes.
And he's from California.
Yeah.
And they're crazy about this emission stuff.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing was that he is looking for this service when he goes somewhere, and this is his preferred way of commuting in Munich with the bike, not with a limousine, not with a big SUV.
Yeah.
He wants an e-bike, and that's it. And it was raining all the time, but they were riding the bikes.
Yeah. Oh, it says a lot, actually. Yeah. And I'm no Arnold Schwarzenegger, but I definitely want to echo that mentality that on a bicycle, especially on a electrically supported bicycle.
Exactly.
You get to experience your surroundings, the people. You technically can pretty much stop anywhere you want.
Exactly.
To take a photo, to have a drink, non-alcoholic drink.
Only rare cases.
Yeah. No rakia. And just to for tourism, I mean, technically my entire trip is tourism, right? And it's all done on an e-bike. That's a great.
There are places like Palma de Mallorca, for example, especially some Greek islands, because if it's an island, less people go there with the car, so they rely on some local transport. And if the weather is nice, then
your adventure model,
exactly,
with a rear rack to put some things. Perfect.
And also people can enjoy their vacation. You don't think about parking. What are the regulations? Where can I park? How can I pay? All the stuff. Rent a car. It's
perfect.
Super
for
complicated.
People like me who cannot park properly. Thank you so much for taking the time to invite me over here and bring me around the factory. It's very, very eye-opening, and if it wasn't clear enough, I'm a big supporter of the e-bike trend and the industry, and how it will not just transform the sustainability part, right? Of course, there's emissions, savings, avoidance, but really, even if you take away the whole green part, the e-bike is such an empowering tool. I personally enjoy looking at the older generation take an e-bike and just go up the hill. And you see their faces. They don't even remember the last time they walk up the hill because it's tiring. Right? They could go up. They're not sure if they can walk down or go to the second hill. And they enjoy it, and to bring that kind of enjoyment and ability to go to places that you physically find a bit more challenging, that in itself is already worth the experience. So for people who have not tried an e-bike, I think it's an experience you should really have and be open to. It's not about going faster. It's not about hitting the turbo button and zooming, but it's just purely about getting to places in a convenient, not so physically taxing way. And here I wanted to bring up the point that the reason I'm here at Econic One today is because Galin has very kindly made an arrangement to see how we can get one of the Econic One bicycles to Singapore for me to enjoy and for me to share the experience with the people in Singapore. When we finally managed to get that bicycle, that Econic One bicycle into Singapore, please feel free to reach out to me. I would love for all of you to give a test, to go for a test ride and just understand how it feels like to be on an e-bike. It's not scary. It's not that dangerous. It's a whole different way of commuting and getting to places. And Galin is very, very nice to be able to support that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for visiting us, and also for telling our story.
I'm very happy too.
I hope for a ride in Singapore on our bike soon.
Yeah. I look forward to that for sure. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye.